Unit 3, Period 3, Progressive Era. This section we're going to talk about labor law reforms. Um, we talked about in the previous unit, Unit 6, that workers were often taken advantage of by the robber barons for profit. And one of the results of that was the formation of unions. And the unions would often go to battle with the robber barons over wages and safety and working conditions and pay. This leads to labor law reforms in the beginning of the 20th century. An event that really caused the government to begin to look at changing the way from that they were doing things and stopping protecting the robber barons at the expense of the workers was what happened at the Triangle Shirtwaist factory. Inside this factory, fire broke out because the conditions were dry, and the men that you see standing here on the edges, the bosses, had forced the women inside working in the factories to um, close the windows, and to ensure that the windows stayed closed, the bosses had actually nailed the windows shut from the outside and locked the doors from the outside. So when the fire broke out, many women perished inside the building. There was no way to get out. The windows were locked, the doors were locked, and when they did get out onto the fire escapes, there had not been maintenance on the fire escapes, and a lot of the fire escapes collapsed, and women fell to their death on the sidewalks below. This Pictures of this was shown in American newspapers all across the country, and there was a tremendous backlash from the American public, and sympathy was at an all-time high for workers and the conditions for workers in many of the factories. So the government began to pass laws to protect workers, and one was workmen's compensation. Workmen's compensation was a requirement that companies purchase insurance to protect workers and to provide medical care for workers that were injured on the job. A second reform was the 8-hour workday, and that allowed, to the advantage of factories, 3 8-hour shifts, so the factories could go 24 hours a day, but it also lessened the amount of time that workers were on the job. A minimum wage was debated, and specifically child labor laws were enacted that raised the age level for children that could be forced to work in the factories.